Everyone, so this is the summary of the poem Among School Children by William Butler Yeats. So these are the important points. This poem was published in Yeats' book of poems, The Tower, in 1928. This poem is based upon poet's visit to a school for inspection. In this poem, poet reflects upon old age. So this is the text of the poem. I walk through the long schoolroom questioning. A kind old nun in a white hood replies. The children learn to cipher and to sing, to study reading books and history, to cut and chew, be neat in everything. In the best modern way, the children's eyes in momentary wonder stare upon a 60-year-old smiling public man. So when the poem opens, we see that the poet visits the progressive convent school at Waterford. He visits this school as a member of a government committee and he was supposed to investigate the state of Irish education in this school for the students between the ages of 4 to 7 years. So in this school, Montessori method of teaching is practiced. Poet says that he visited each and every classroom and asked so many questions, and it was a long visit for the poet. So there was a kind old nun who was wearing a white hooded dress and was answering all the questions asked by the poet. In this school, Yeats found children got engaged in learning to solve mathematical problems, to sing, to cut and chew. So these children were also studying and reading books and histories. So they were supposed to be neat and clean. They were required to do everything in the best modern way. So these children were surprised and were gazing at the 60-year-old smiling public man. Here poet is talking about himself. I dream of laden body bent above a sinking fire, a tale that she told of a harsh reproof or trivial event that changed some childish day to tragedy, told, and it seemed that our two natures blend into a sphere from youthful sympathy, or else to alter Plato's parable into the yolk and white of the one shell. In these lines, poet is reminded of Modgon. She was very beautiful, like Leda. Now she is old and is seen bending over a dying fire to warm herself. Poet remembers an event which Modgon shared with him about her school life. Actually, Modgon was scolded by one of her teacher. That incident was very tragic for Modgon at that time, and at that time poet became sympathetic towards her, and he felt that their souls got mingled in each other like the yolk and white of an egg. Here poet mentions Plato's parable, which means that man and women were originally united in a single body and later on they got separated from each other. And thinking of that fit of grief or rage, I look upon one child or two other there, and wonder if she stood so at that age, for even daughters of the sun can share something of every peddler's heritage, and had that colour upon cheek or hair, and thereupon my heart is driven wild, she stands before me as living child. So in these lines, poet is still thinking about the anger or grief which Maud Gonne would have felt after being scolded by her teacher. Now he starts observing the faces of all the girls. Seeing all these girls, he imagines that Modgon would have looked like one of them during her school days. Now he thinks that the beautiful Lady Helen, the daughter of Zeus and Leda, can also have something in common with the children of simple and ordinary people. And then poet imagines one little girl standing in the classroom to be Modgon, okay, during her school days. Her present image floats into the mind. Did Quattrocento finger fashion it, hollow of cheek as though it drank the wind, and took a mass of shadows for its meat? And I, though never of legend kind, had pretty plumage once, enough of that, better to smile on all that smile and show there's a comfortable kind of old scarecrow. So, in these lines, poet thinks about the present appearance of Morgane in her old age. He thinks that now she has hollow cheeks and she looks so weak as if she has wind to drink and shadows for food. But even in her old age, she looks beautiful like a beautiful painting of Renaissance period. Now, poet talks about himself. He says that he never considered himself having the kind of beauty that Leda had, but he was handsome in his youth. He was attractive and handsome in his youth. But now, poet has lost his youth and he looks like a scarecrow. But still, he exchanges smiles with everyone and pretends to be cheerful and comfortable in their presence. What youthful mother, a shape upon her lap, honey of generation had betrayed, and that must sleep, shriek, struggle to escape, as recollection or the drug decide, would think her son, did she but see that shape with 60 or more winters on its side, a compensation for the pang of his birth or the uncertainty of his setting forth. So, in these lines, poet talks about a newly born child in the lap of a mother. This child sleeps, screams, and struggles to escape and behaves in a childish manner. So this child has come from the kingdom of souls after taking the draught of forgetfulness. Poet imagines how a child will look like when he will be of 60 years of age. Okay. So if the mother of this child will see him in his old age, then she would consider the entire process of bringing him into this world as worthless and futile. So she would wonder that why she had suffered so much labor pain in giving birth to that child who looks ugly in his old age. She would also think about the uncertainty of life. Plato thought nature but a spume that plays upon a ghostly paradigm of things. Soldier Aristotle played the toss upon the bottom of a king of kings. World famous golden thighed Pythagoras fingered upon a fiddlestick or strings what a star sang and careless muses heard. Old clothes upon old sticks to scare a bird. So in these lines, poet talks about Plato, who considered that this world, is full of shadows, and this world is mere the reflection of God's idea. So then poet gives example of Aristotle, who whipped Alexander to make him learn. Then he talks about Pythagoras, who was a great philosopher and mathematician, and who claimed that he had golden thighs and he could listen to the sound produced by the planets and the stars. But their knowledge and wisdom proved futile before old age. Even these great philosophers were not able to stop old age from coming, and they looked like scarecrows in their old ages. Sorry, in their old age. Both nuns and mothers worship images, but those the candles light are not as those that animate a mother's reveries but keep a marble or a bronze repose, and yet they do break hearts or presences that passion, piety, or affection knows that, and that all heavenly glory symbolize or self-born mockers of man's enterprise. So in these lines, poet says that mothers worship their children while nuns worship the marble or bronze images of Saints Virgin Mary and Christ. Both of these images do not give satisfaction and contentment to their worshippers. Children make their mother upset by growing old and ugly, and stones break the hearts of nuns because they are not subjected to change and are fixed. Labor is blossoming or dancing where the body is not bruised to pleasure soul, nor beauty born out of its own despair, nor blear-eyed wisdom out of midnight oil. O chestnut tree, great rooted blossomer, are you the leaf, the blossom, or the bole? O body swayed to music or brightening glance, how can we know the dancer from the dance? So in these lines, poet says that life is like a chestnut tree which doesn't have leaf, blossom, and trunk, but the combination of all these three. The dancing movements of a dancer cannot be separated from the dancer. Similarly, body and soul should live in harmony with each other. So, both of them should not be tortured either by pursuing wisdom at the cost of one's sleep or by any other means. And here the poem ends.